The day my wife hit the jackpot was the same day I realized just how little love can mean when money gets involved. We'd been married for 8 years. I thought we were happy, or at least content. We weren't the type of couple that screamed perfect from the outside, but we had stability, or so I thought. My name's Daniel, and until last month, I was married to the luckiest and greediest woman I've ever known. It all started one Saturday morning. She woke up before me, which was rare. I remember hearing her in the kitchen, the kettle whistling, the faint crinkle of something. Lottery tickets. She had this odd habit of buying a few every week, just for fun, she used to say. I never took it seriously. She'd giggle when I teased her about wasting $5, saying, "You never know, babe. One day I might surprise you." Well, she sure did. Around 8 a.m., I walked in, yawning, scratching my head, and there she was, frozen, holding a ticket like it was made of gold. Her mouth hung open, eyes wide. I thought she'd seen a ghost. "Daniel," she whispered, "I think I just won." I laughed. "Yeah, sure. And I'm the next king of England." But she didn't laugh back. She shoved the ticket in my face, her hands trembling. The numbers matched. Every single one. $9 million. I blinked. "No way!" She dropped to her knees, sobbing and laughing at the same time. I remember pulling her in, both of us shaking. It was surreal. I mean, what do you even say when your life changes in an instant? We jumped around the kitchen like idiots, screaming. I opened a bottle of cheap champagne we'd been saving for our anniversary. It wasn't even noon yet, but we drank it straight from the bottle. In that moment, I honestly believed it was the start of something beautiful, a fresh chapter, a chance to breathe without worrying about bills, debts, or my old beat-up truck. But I didn't realize the moment we became rich, we also became strangers. Over the next few days, everything changed. She suddenly started acting different. She'd always been grounded, down to earth. But now she was spending hours online looking up luxury cars, designer bags, houses in Beverly Hills. Her phone barely left her hand. At first, I thought it was just excitement. Who wouldn't be thrilled after winning millions? But then the tone shifted. She began calling it her money, not our money. One night, I brought it up gently. "Hey, honey, have you thought about how we'll manage the money? Maybe we should hire an advisor, someone to help us invest smartly." She looked up from her phone, smirking. "Us? Daniel, I'm the one who bought the ticket." That stung more than I expected. "Yeah, but we're married," I said carefully. "Everything we have, we share." She rolled her eyes. "Please, Daniel. You didn't even believe in the lottery. Don't start acting like you're entitled to half of it now." Her words hit me like a slap. This was the woman who once said, "What's mine is yours." The same woman who made me coffee every morning, who I thought I knew better than anyone. The next few days were cold. No warmth, no laughter, just tension thick enough to choke on. She stopped kissing me goodbye. She stopped talking altogether unless she had to. Then one evening, she didn't come home. At first, I thought maybe she was out celebrating with her friends, maybe still buzzing from the win. But midnight came and went. I called. No answer. Texted. Nothing. By morning, she finally replied, "Don't wait up. Staying with my mom for a bit. Need space. No love you, no explanation. Just space." I tried to stay calm. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Winning that much money can mess with your head, right? But a week later, she showed up. Not to talk, but to pack. She walked in like a stranger, cold, composed, wearing new clothes and diamond earrings I'd never seen before. "Melissa," I said, blocking the hallway. "What's going on?" She didn't even look at me. "I'm moving out. Moving out." "You're serious?" She sighed, annoyed. "Daniel, this isn't working." "You know it. We've been living like roommates for months." "That's not true," I protested. "We've had a rough patch, sure, but—" She cut me off. "It's over. I've already spoken to a lawyer." That's when I noticed the envelope in her hand. My stomach dropped. She tossed it onto the counter. "You'll be hearing from him soon. Oh, and don't try to contact me directly. All communication goes through my lawyer." I just stood there, speechless. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "I'll send someone to collect the rest of my things. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." and then she was gone. I stared at the door long after it closed. It was like my whole world had collapsed in a single afternoon. A week later, I got served. Divorce papers. She cited irreconcilable differences. No mention of the money, of course, but I knew exactly what this was about. Still, something didn't add up. She was moving too fast, too confident. It was like she already knew she'd win everything in the settlement. And that's when it hit me, the prenup. Back when we were getting married, her parents insisted I sign one. They were wealthy and skeptical about me. I was just a mechanic, not exactly their dream son-in-law. I remember the night before our wedding, her father sitting me down with that smug smile. "It's just a formality," he'd said. "You understand, we have to protect our daughter's interests." Melissa had pleaded, "It's just for my parents' peace of mind, Daniel. It doesn't mean anything. Back then, I didn't care about money. I loved her. I would have signed anything." So I did. But now that piece of paper might be the very thing saving me. I dug through our old files in the closet, heart pounding. It took me hours, but I found it. Yellowed, tucked inside an old folder. I read every word carefully, line by line, and then I froze. There it was, buried halfway through. In the event of divorce initiated by either party, all assets, winnings, or earnings acquired during the marriage shall be considered joint property with equitable division. I read it again, slower this time. That meant if she filed for divorce, like she just did, everything she owned, including that $9 million, was half mine. The realization hit me like lightning. She'd forgotten about the prenup. Her own parents had made sure that if she ever left me, she couldn't just walk away with everything. I sat there laughing like a madman, shaking my head. After everything she'd done, the betrayal, the arrogance, she dug her own grave. But I didn't say a word. I played dumb. I signed the initial papers, pretended to cooperate, let her believe she was in full control. She thought I'd roll over quietly, maybe even walk away with nothing. She had no idea. A few days later, her lawyer called, requesting a settlement meeting. I agreed immediately. We met at a sleek downtown office, all glass walls and polished desks. Melissa walked in looking like a movie star. New hair, designer dress, her diamond earrings catching the light. She barely looked at me. Her lawyer started, all professional smiles. "Daniel, Melissa wishes to finalize this as quickly and amicably as possible. She's willing to offer you $50,000 as a gesture of goodwill." I almost laughed out loud. 50 grand. Out of 9 million. I kept my face neutral. "That's generous," I said slowly, "but I think we'll stick to the prenup." The lawyer frowned. "The prenup?" Melissa's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" I leaned back, savoring the moment. "You remember? The one your parents made me sign before the wedding? The one that says all assets during marriage are joint?" Her expression drained of color. "No, that's not. It said if you filed, not me." I pulled out a copy, slid it across the table. "Read it again. It says either party." Her lawyer's face tightened as he scanned the document. Then he looked at her, clearly uncomfortable. "He's right, Melissa." Her voice broke. "That can't be right. Your parents wrote it," I said calmly. "Guess they didn't expect you to be the one walking away." The room went silent. Melissa's lawyer cleared his throat. "In that case, Mr. Parker is entitled to a 50% share of all marital assets, including recent winnings." Her eyes filled with fury. "You can't do this to me," she hissed. "I'm not doing anything," I said softly. "You did this to yourself." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass shook. I sat there for a moment, taking a deep breath, letting the victory sink in. For the first time in weeks, I felt alive. Not because of the money, but because justice, cold, ironic justice, had just served itself. But that wasn't the end. Oh no, this was just the beginning. A few days later, her lawyer called again. "Melissa wants to negotiate privately," he said. "She's reconsidering her approach." I agreed to meet her one last time. When she showed up, she looked nothing like the glamorous, confident woman from before. Her makeup was gone, her eyes red, her voice trembling. "Daniel," she began, "I made a mistake." I was overwhelmed. I shouldn't have filed. Please, can we talk about this? I stared at her for a long time. There was a time when I would have given anything to hear her say that. But now, I saw her for who she really was. Melissa, I said quietly, you didn't just file for divorce. You tried to erase me from your life the second you got rich. That's not love. That's convenience. Tears welled up in her eyes. I thought you'd take advantage of me, like everyone else. I shook my head. You didn't even give me the chance. She reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled back. I'll see you in court, I said, standing up. And don't worry, you'll still have your half. I'm not greedy, just fair. As I walked out of that cafe, I felt an odd calm wash over me. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one being looked down on. She had 9 million reasons to celebrate, but only herself to blame for losing everything that actually mattered. And soon, once the dust settled, she'd learn that money doesn't buy happiness or loyalty. Because when you forget the value of love, life finds a way to remind you, brutally. The weeks that followed felt like something out of a movie, except I wasn't sure if it was a drama, a dark comedy, or some twisted fairy tale where the villain doesn't realize she's already lost. After our last conversation, Melissa went completely silent. No calls, no texts, no apologies. I figured she was licking her wounds, probably trying to find some legal loophole to claw her way out of the prenup. But that document was ironclad. Her parents' lawyer had drafted it themselves, and I knew they wouldn't risk their reputation by helping her twist the wording now. So I waited, patiently, quietly, while my own lawyer started filing for my rightful share. When the first court date was set, the media caught wind of the story. A lottery win followed by a divorce. People eat that stuff up. Suddenly, my life was headline material. Mechanic's wife wins $9 million, files for divorce. Prenup twist turns jackpot battle upside down. I tried not to read the comments, but you can't help yourself sometimes. Half the people called me a gold digger. The other half said she got what she deserved. But the truth was, neither label fit. I didn't want her money, I wanted fairness, and maybe deep down, a bit of poetic justice. The first hearing was surreal. Melissa showed up in a tailored black suit, heels clicking like she owned the place. Her confidence was back, but it was brittle, like glass pretending to be diamond. Her lawyer stood up first, trying to argue that the lottery winnings should be considered individual income, since she bought the ticket alone. But my lawyer, a calm, sharp old man named Fletcher, wasn't having it. Your Honor, he said, sliding the prenup forward, the document explicitly states that any and all assets acquired during the marriage by either party are joint property upon divorce initiated by either party. Mrs. Parker's signature is right here. The judge adjusted his glasses, scanning the page. Melissa's lawyer tried to interrupt, but the judge raised a hand. I've read enough. Mr. Parker's claim is valid under this agreement. Melissa's jaw tightened. I could see the panic in her eyes, the realization hitting her again, harder this time. When the hearing ended, she stormed out without a word. Fletcher leaned over and whispered, "She's going to offer a settlement before the next date." You watch, he was right. 3 days later, her lawyer called again. Melissa is willing to settle privately, and he said, she'll transfer $4 million to your account immediately if you agree to sign a non-disclosure clause. A gag order. Of course, she didn't want the world to know how her own greed backfired, but I wasn't interested in money anymore. Not the way she was. I wanted closure. I wanted her to face what she'd done, so I declined. Tell her we'll see her in court, I said, and hung up. When I walked into the next hearing, Melissa refused to even look at me. She was surrounded by a wall of lawyers, advisors, stylists, an entire entourage built around her fragile ego. As the proceedings went on, she tried every trick in the book, claimed emotional distress, accused me of manipulation, even hinted that I'd pressured her emotionally into signing the prenup years ago. But the judge wasn't buying any of it. Her own parents were called to testify about the document, and when they confirmed it was their idea, not mine, that was the nail in her coffin. The courtroom was packed that day. I could feel every eye on me when the judge finally spoke. In light of the evidence and the legally binding agreement signed by both parties, the court awards Mr. Daniel Parker 50% of all marital assets, including the recent lottery winnings. There it was. The room erupted in murmurs. Melissa sat frozen, her face pale, her eyes locked on the floor. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just stood quietly, nodded to the judge, and walked out. Outside, reporters swarmed the steps, cameras flashing, microphones in my face, voices shouting questions. Daniel, how does it feel to win? Do you think your wife regrets filing for divorce? What are you going to do with your share of the money? I stopped just long enough to say one thing. I never wanted her money. I just wanted the truth to matter. And then I walked away. For the next few weeks, my life changed drastically. The money came in, and with it, the chaos died down. I paid off my debts, helped my younger brother buy a house, donated a chunk to the local orphanage where I used to volunteer. I didn't buy a mansion or a Ferrari. I didn't suddenly start living large. I just started living honestly. Meanwhile, Melissa's world began to crumble. The media loved her downfall. Her lavish spending became tabloid gossip. People were tracking her every move. The new house she'd bought was on the market within a month. Word spread that her financial advisor quit after she ignored his warnings about reckless investments. Then came the real blow. Her parents cut her off. Apparently, they were furious that she'd filed for divorce in the first place, and even more embarrassed that their own prenup had turned into a public scandal. She'd betrayed their trust, and in doing so, destroyed her own image. I heard she moved into a rental condo downtown. No more designer cars, no more parties. Just quiet. Lonely quiet. And then one day she showed up at my garage. It was late afternoon. I was under a car, grease on my hands, when I heard the sound of heels clicking across the concrete floor. I rolled out and froze. She looked different. Not glamorous, not angry, just tired. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, eyes sunken. Daniel, she said softly, can we talk? I hesitated, then nodded. We sat in the corner of the shop, the air thick with the smell of oil and regret. I know you probably hate me, she began, and I don't blame you. I lost sight of everything that mattered. When I won, it felt like power, like I finally didn't need anyone. But then I realized, I pushed away the only person who ever loved me without asking for anything. I didn't say a word. I just listened. I thought money would fix my life, she continued, tears forming. Instead, it just showed me how broken I really was. I ruined everything. I ruined us. For the first time, her voice wasn't sharp. It wasn't manipulative. It was human. I sighed. Melissa, I don't hate you, but love doesn't survive betrayal. You didn't just leave. You tried to erase me. You turned what we had into a transaction. She looked down, crying quietly. I know, and I'll live with that forever. We sat in silence for a while. The sound of the city outside filled the gaps where words failed. Finally, she stood up, wiped her tears, and said, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not for the money, not for the prenup, for forgetting who you were to me. She turned to leave, then paused. You deserve better than me, Daniel. Always did. And just like that, she was gone again. This time, I didn't feel anger, just peace. Months passed. The media moved on to fresher scandals, and my life slowly returned to something resembling normal. I expanded the garage, hired 2 apprentices, and started spending my weekends fishing by the lake, something I hadn't done in years. Sometimes I'd think about her, not with hate, but with a kind of distant sadness. We'd both lost something precious long before the money ever showed up. The jackpot just exposed the cracks that had already been there. Then one morning I got a letter. No return address, just my name in neat handwriting. Inside was a single check, $500,000 in a note. For what you did for me when I didn't deserve it. You taught me that character is worth more than fortune. I'm leaving the country for a while. I hope you find happiness, truly. Melissa. I folded the letter, smiled faintly, and tucked it away in a drawer. I didn't cash the check. Instead, I donated it to the same orphanage I'd helped before. Somehow, that felt right. Life has a funny way of balancing itself. I started dating again a year later. Nothing serious at first, but then I met someone, Claire. She wasn't flashy or dramatic, just kind, grounded, and genuine. We met when her car broke down near my shop, and she laughed when I told her my ex once won the lottery. "You poor guy," she said, shaking her head. "That sounds like a nightmare." I chuckled. It was. But I learned something important. "Oh yeah," she asked. "That money can buy a ticket," I said, smiling, "but it can't buy loyalty." She laughed, and that laughter felt more valuable than any jackpot ever could. A year after that, I stood in the same courthouse again, but this time not for a divorce, for a wedding license. As I signed the papers beside Claire, I thought about the old prenup locked in my safe, yellowed with time. The irony wasn't lost on me. She noticed my distant look and nudged me playfully. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Just thinking how life likes to write its own punchlines." She grinned. "Then let's make sure ours has a happy ending." And I intended to, because I finally understood something that took me years and a broken marriage to learn. Money doesn't change people. It just shows who they really are. Melissa's jackpot wasn't my loss. It was my liberation. And the real prize wasn't $4.5 million. It was freedom. Freedom from the illusion that love is measured in wealth. Freedom from someone who saw partnership as ownership. Freedom to start again, not richer in cash, but richer in clarity. Every time I lock up the garage at night, I look up at the small sign I hung by the door. It's something I painted myself, a reminder of how far I've come. Value isn't found in what you win. It's found in who you become after losing. And that's my story. The story of how my wife won a $9 million jackpot, filed for divorce, and kicked me out, only to realize she'd signed away half of it long before she ever hit the numbers. Because fate, as it turns out, has a wicked sense of humor.